In this week's episode, Tesla goes to great lengths to get profitable, the Starhopper falls over, and we get more news on the Starship. Let's get ludicrous. Welcome to Our Ludicrous Future. This is the podcast where we talk about all the cool future tech that's happening today that's going to change our future and make it technical stuff later. I'm Joe Scott with the Answers with Joe YouTube channel, and with me is Tim Dodd.
Hey, it's me, Tim Dodd, the everyday astronaut from all of those things that where I am with my face. And of course, we have Ben Solons.
What's up, guys? It's Ben from Teslanomics. Is your face really out there, Tim? Because I think
Right
you have
here.
that logo, though, of you sitting on the thing.
But this is my face here, so gotcha.
I need more Tim
Checkmate.
Dodd face on the icons. That's
There's
what I'm
too
saying.
much Tim Dodd face on everything.
On the interwebs.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
What's
had
up with
Tim
you
Dodd
guys?
face.
What are you guys up to?
Relaxing, hanging.
We had a big week in everything, don't you think? There's a lot of stuff to talk about this week. We should probably do less just chit chat and just start diving right in.
Well, let's
And
do
most
it.
of it happened right after we recorded last week, so I think this show is just the catalyst for everything
Yep.
to happen after that.
Exactly. Yep.
It's like when they announce the profitability stuff after the markets close, right? They wait for us to do this, then they come out with all the big news. It's basically how it works. So,
Same thing.
I'm pretty sure.
Same thing for sure.
So kick us off there, Timmy.
Oh.
What are we doing,
Well,
Timothy?
you're making me do this? Why don't we start off with...
You said it. Let's go.
Well, okay. Let's start off with, we had a little spill. There was a little spill the other day.
Uh-oh.
You guys know what I'm talking about?
On aisle
That's what you get for building in Texas.
Can someone pull
Which
that
thing's
up?
going to happen, son?
I'll start talking about it. Someone pull it up for our YouTube audience and share the screen. Look for the pictures of Starhopper has fallen over. Half of it. Half of Starhopper fell over. And you know what?
half of it.
This is nothing. People are going crazy. Did you hear? Starhopper fell. The planet's gonna blow up. People are just going crazy. My Twitter, did you hear that? Starhopper fell over? It's guys, A, settle down. B, this was they split this thing in half often because it has basically a giant nose cone. And then it has the base part, or it all is one shiny shape, but it splits in half. And while they're working on it, in order to get down into the tanks and some of the fuselage and some of the actual rocket part, they take the nose cone off. They set it aside, and they were having some pretty windy days, so they tied it down, made sure it was held in place with mooring blocks, whatever that is. And there's 50 mile. What was that?
For boats?
Sure. Definitely for boats. I love it for boats always. I always use mooring blocks. And 50 mile an hour wind gust came, whoop, knocked over the top, the nose cone basically. And there's the whole thing. This is photos I haven't even seen, Ben. What? This must be today.
Look at that.
So are they showing before and after? This is what it looked like when the nose cone fell off? Because that's not true.
Yeah. I don't know. It is the Daily Mail. So
Dang
maybe...
it, Daily Mail! You have no idea what you're talking about.
That's exactly the quality journalism we would come to expect.
So what? If you're watching on YouTube, what Ben pulled up, we're actually seeing the top of the dome structure of the propellant tanks, and that's new. That was not even under there when the actual nose cone fell off.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So look for. There's a picture of it folded up on its side. Yeah, it's
a little bit banged up.
Pretty entertaining. Yeah. Oh, there. Just even that Intel. Why does it say Intel at the top? Where Starhopper just fell over.
This guy?
There we go. That thing. Yep. So that's the nose cone all toppled over. That's the top half of the rocket. Yeah, toppled over. And this is just thin, cheap stainless steel. This isn't even the fancy stuff. They're not cryoforming this. They aren't using this for anything structural. This is literally to kind of replicate the shape-ish, the general shape and aerodynamics of the vehicle a little bit. Because this is just a low speed, low altitude, nothing scary hopper. And that's just that took them 2 weeks to build. It's not game changing. They'll just take another 2 weeks to build it again, or even probably reuse most of that and whatever. It's not even a big deal. And look at something terrible just happened was that headline. Like, Starhopper fell over. Something terrible happened. No, this is like a $5,000 hunk of metal that tipped over and got a little bit crunched. Like, settle down.
This isn't the end of SpaceX. You're saying.
Yeah. SpaceX is
so
now bankrupt.
they have the bottom half and then they have the top half, and we saw pictures of them assembling that, and then they put them together and took a picture with the little starman at the bottom. I think just to kind of show everybody what it was supposed to look like.
Yep.
And that was a nice picture and everything, but I think that made a lot of people think, oh, they're done, they finished it, it's together, and then but no, they pulled it apart again.
Right.
And they were like putting together all the stuff on the inside.
Yep.
And that's when the top blew over, and so now of course people are immediately going to the whole thing. BFR isn't gonna work. People are gonna die. It's like
Yep. Exactly.
it was literally a hull that's why it got knocked over by wind, because it's just an empty hull with nothing in it.
Yep. Exactly. And it's just funny. I mean, people need to. I love when people like make really stark like. Well, first off, I love when people start asking questions without even like just literally just get on Twitter for like 4 seconds. Like, it'll take you longer to ask someone what's going on than it will to be just to, like, look up, oh, it tipped over. Like, the nose cone fell off or it tipped over. You know what I mean? Like, what happened? What happened to...
I think that comes from, though, people's just complete... It's like the Dunning-Kruger effect, almost, where it's just like... or just a complete lack of understanding about what this is.
Where to even start with it.
What, like, a Falcon 9 is or something, right? Or, like, the Dragon capsule. Like,
That's fair.
I probably most people out there don't have hardly any understanding of the difference between this and the real thing.
That's true. That's
my
fair.
guess is like that's where it comes from. I mean, the media is going to write these salacious headlines just because that gets more clicks and that's their job, and that's just kind of the world we live in. But yeah. So the bottom line though is that this, like, they'll fix it in a day or two, right? It's not like a major.
I mean, very relatively soon, and it's not time sensitive either. They've got a lot of work to do on the hopper portion, on the bottom half of the Starhopper. That's where literally all the meat and potatoes is in this thing. Like, it is all the instrumentation, all the fuel, all the tank, all the engines, everything is in that bottom half. So that's not going anywhere, falling over or anything. That's perfectly fine. Yeah. And it's really not that time sensitive. Like, they could probably fly it without the nose cone. The nose cone's mostly aesthetics and a little bit, of like how to control it, But
it sounds like The Martian right here. Like you're flying a convertible spaceship.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Andy Weir was double right. First off, wind can knock over a rocket, and second off, convertible rockets are in now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. You did say that was the one big thing from that movie that didn't make sense, was knocking over a rocket because of the atmosphere or whatever. It would have to be like 3,000 mile an hour winds or something.
Yep. Because it's only 1% of the atmosphere. So there's just it's not dense enough to, even if you have fast wind, it's not dense wind. So it's not going to have much effect. I want to know, because he needed an antagonist in that story. He needed a reason for the ship to knock over. I'm surprised he didn't just go with like something mechanical. Like all of a sudden hydraulic was leaking in like one of the legs or something that's just starting to tip over, or like a Mars quake or something, like the sand shifted, or they landed on like a thing and just starting to shift a little bit and they're watching it and they're like, we have to leave, Yeah. Why wind? Why wind?
I think the way I interpreted that was the environment in total was the antagonist, right? Just like everything about Mars was what was pushing up against Matt Damon, right?
Yeah, that's true.
That's how I interpreted that. I don't know, Joe. You kind of have a background.
Nature.
Yeah.
Joe, you have a background in Mars.
Yeah.
You've lived on there. What's it like?
Well, I would say that the fact that we are picking apart that little detail speaks a lot to like how detailed the rest of the book was and the science of it and how accurate it was.
It's very true.
I'm totally defending Andy Weir because he called me out on Twitter not too long ago. So
what was that?
We're buds apparently.
You and Andy Weir?
Well, I can't say that. No, he noticed that The Martian was in. Well, it's not now, but it was on my bookshelf once upon a time.
Put it back right now.
I know, right? It's over there. No, he got on Twitter and was like, "I've been binge watching Answers with Joe, and I noticed that his book was in my back." I'm like, "What?"
Whoa.
This happened a few weeks ago. Yeah,
that's awesome. Dang, man, that's huge. That's big. I like that. That's
Clearly,
awesome.
I've gotten over it.
You have a picture of the tweet hung like framed on your wall.
Yes.
I just sit here at night.
Yeah.
Just read that
Looking
over
at
and
the
over.
tweet.
Oh, it's still there. He didn't delete it. Yeah.
It's printed out though.
I
See
tried
after
to
this podcast.
Yeah, I tried to thread jack that and get details on any new books because I've read, I think, all of the ones he's written. And Artemis is a fantastic book by him as well about I don't want to say colony, but like a base on the moon.
Yeah.
And it's been there so long, like people grow up, are born there, and their lives are just totally wildly different and kind of what goes on. And I thought that was a fantastic book. I wouldn't be surprised if that's a movie sometime soon.
Actually,
sure.
yeah, there's a couple of people. The people who did the Lego movie are making that movie.
Really?
Is that a good or a bad thing?
That's a good thing.
I think it's a great thing. Lego movie's awesome.
Yeah, like it universally praised.
By me. All right.
So
Across the universe, they like the Lego.
Oh man. Well, that's it for Starhopper. Ben, you mentioned at the beginning of the show that right at the end of last show we had some news, and
Yes.
just get into it. Just do
okay,
it. Go.
So following SpaceX layoffs, actually, Tesla has some layoffs, 7% layoff. This is in addition to the referral program ending on the 1st of February, which is just in a few days. And the Superchargers also seeing a price increase. And then Tesla actually rolling back some of that based on kind of like, really, I guess, intense public pressure and all that. There was a statement here from Tesla on their layoffs that I'm not sure if anyone saw, but I thought I'd read it because it's direct from them and it's kind of clear as to why there were layoffs at Tesla. So the Tesla spokesperson said, we recently announced that we are no longer taking orders for the 75 kilowatt hour version of the Model S and X in order to streamline production and provide even more differentiation with the Model 3. As a result of this change and because of improving efficiencies in our production lines, we have reduced Model S and X production hours accordingly. At the same time, these changes, along with continuing improvements, give us the flexibility to increase our production capacity in the future as needed. We'll be providing more details on our earnings call next week, which is, in fact, on January 30th, less than a week away from today. So, to me, the theme with all these things, the layoff, the Supercharger price increase, the referral program ending, which Elon did state was in relation to the added cost that it put on each individual car, specifically the Model 3. This is all just trying to maintain profitability. I'm guessing that we'll probably have a little bit weaker sales in January in Q1 of this year, and so these, I think they're just trying to get ahead of the curve here. And the reason I'm saying weaker sales is because the tax credit, got chopped in half. Tesla did try to meet them, try to make up with that with a reduced price, but still, I think you're going to see a little bit softened demand there. But they are now shipping to Europe. They're actually off the boat. Deliveries might be happening today. We don't know, but European deliveries are ramping up now. Big boats with those, as well as China deliveries are ramping up. However, those things do take time. Right. So that takes, you can't just fly them over there. Like it takes, several weeks, if not months, to actually load a boat with 5,000 cars and send it across the Pacific. So those kind of things take quite a long time. So if we see a softening demand in Q1, I'm guessing it's due to the kind of transition of them expanding beyond the U.S. And all of these measures hopefully will keep them profitable, which I think is, as Elon has actually stated, that is kind of the idea. So one thing I heard, and this is what I want to discuss with you guys. So per unit, they have really good profit margins, right, per vehicle. However, they have a high what's called SG&A, sales, general, and administrative. I think it is. It's basically the cost of generating sales. That's really high compared to all their competitors, and it's because competitors like Ford or whomever have dealers, and so dealers actually take the brunt of the cost off of the manufacturer. Like a brand new car, as soon as it leaves the factory floor, a dealer actually pays them for that.
Right.
They've actually paid the manufacturer for the car.
Right.
So
it's sold.
Right. And then when it comes to a used car, the cost or depreciation or gap with what they sell it for versus the value and all that is also, that liability is held by the dealer network, not by the manufacturer. So these other manufacturers are able to actually have a much, like, they can have smaller profit margin, but because their SG&A is also quite a bit smaller, they can come out ahead. So the question is, could Tesla benefit from a dealer network? And I'm just curious what you guys think about that.
Well, I mean, my initial thoughts are no, cut out the middleman. Like, that's good for the consumer. It's also good for Tesla because they can potentially, you say there's a 10% to be made, by the dealership, and that's obviously how they pay for everything that the dealership does. I mean, in theory, 5% of that revenue could go back to the manufacturer. 5% could be savings to the consumer. I mean, just like with movies and stuff, like a lot of middlemen are getting cut out, or middle persona are getting cut out of everything, because now, like, someone can hold up a phone and reach an audience, and you can cut out all the distribution, all the crazy moving parts of that whole process now, and I feel like it's a leaner, meaner thing. Sure, of course it's going to cost more, but they don't have advertising dollars. Like, Tesla's not advertising. I think it's a smart move. Keep it all in-house. What do you think, Joe?
Whenever I look at these sort of like entrenched ways of doing things, I always bounce back and forth between, like, is it like that because somebody was making a lot of money and kind of manipulated everything to keep it that way, or did it become that because that just worked the best, And I always wondered that about the dealer network too. In fact, it's funny. I had a drink last night with a guy who works for Mini Cooper, and was talking about how they work back and forth with the dealerships, and I didn't get a straight answer out of him because it was like a group of us at a table and the subject changed like that, But I was trying to get out of him, like, it's kind of funny that we're talking about this now. I was trying to get out of him whether the whole dealer network thing is going to go away. Like, I wasn't trying to be like, you want to be like Tesla. I wasn't trying to bring Tesla into it, but I was just kind of like trying to ascertain if it's something that's going to be going away just because of technology and because of the way people shop these days. I mean,
yeah,
right.
Who goes and just shops at a car dealership anymore? Everybody I know, it's like you go online, you find exactly what you want, you find out what dealer has it, and you go get it. So
That's
why do you
true.
need the dealer at all?
Right. But people still people still go to the dealership to get test drives and to get in the cars and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But,
and I did ask him. I asked him what their margin was for service, like how much service was part of their
profitability.
He said 60%.
Yeah,
really?
that's common.
Yeah.
That's where the old EV1 stuff with GM, that was one of the reasons I believe that they kind of recalled it, because the dealers were basically protesting because these things need hardly any maintenance, which may come as a surprise to anyone that is listening and has had tons of issues with their Model 3 or their Tesla in general. But yeah, so I think your line of thinking there, Joe, is right where I'm at. I'm like, okay, I want it to be true that the direct sales model is better, but is the dealer network actually a more efficient way of doing it, which then would let the manufacturer kind of like succeed even more and like push things and like make new cars, right? Like what's more important, that Tesla owns it from cradle to grave, or Tesla continues to innovate with new exciting things? Because if this is slowing them down in a significant way and there's a better way to do that, maybe it's not going to the exact dealer network model now, whatever, but some other way where you can offload that. And they have done this in some ways. There's a company called Manheim that they've hired to handle a lot of their used inventory, which... Holy cow, if you haven't seen Rich's videos on this, you have to go watch his experience. The thing that and I looked it up, it was back in April of last year that Tesla officially ended the certified pre-owned program, and they went to a used car program, which means that they are hardly refurbishing these things at all when they sell them. So I'm actually going to do a big video on this pretty soon, but that to me is kind of the thing, right? Like, if you could have someone that's their whole job is just like handling the used cars, and they refurbish them, and they have access to Tesla parts, and it's just more efficient, and then Tesla doesn't have to deal with it themselves, that could be better, right? So I don't know if the traditional dealer model is the right way, but I am curious if there are some learnings or some bits from that could help Tesla free them up from some of this, especially on the liability side, on their balance sheets, so they can kind of push faster and further.
What about the Apple model? Which is, for a while, you basically had to go. Hang on, this is legit. That you had to go to an Apple store, basically. Apple sold direct to consumer, and it was really weird. And they had their own computer stores, and all. It was super super backwards. But soon, all of a sudden, Best Buy is starting to have some Apple products and their own like Apple section and all this stuff. What if they did both? Like, why not both? Offload some if dealers want to license and sell and handle used markets of Teslas, which is probably a big demand. Like, that's probably could be a lucrative business model, and do some new inventory and stuff like that. Offload it and let the consumer decide which buying option they want. If they want to go down to a local dealership, deal with that, go for it. If you want to be on your phone and order a car and do it that way, do it that way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like a franchise. Well, I think that's what it is. It's called a franchise dealer, but almost like a authorized retailers.
Yeah.
Right. Well, like it's a Verizon store, but not really. It's owned by Jeff over here or whatever. But he went through Verizon to make sure it's all in compliance, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, because that's the question. Like, what is the most efficient way to accelerate our transition to sustainable energy, right? And that is the theme. So I would not be surprised if they were exploring lots of options here.
I mean, I can also see it could be scary when you have a brand like that, though. They have such a strong brand that they would, licensing that out basically and letting other people tamp with that and have their own, dirty fingers in it might, kind of.
But that's the franchise model, right? That's why you have to have inspectors and blah, blah, blah. Like you don't just say, hey, guys, here's like a PDF on how to do it and give us money, right? Like
here's
you have to set
sign.
up your own. Yeah, you have to set up your own infrastructure, your own licensing agreements. I mean, it's not just like a click of a button, but.
Tesla's been very against letting other people put their hands in their pie. They've always kind of had a stranglehold on that.
Which is probably my biggest knock against them. I think that's such a bad move. Like, I understand in the very early days when you're like, we don't, like, it's just very unknown and people are very afraid and they need to control exactly the experience. I understand that, but I think as you get over or get more mature in your product lines, I think you could probably open it up a little bit. Apple's probably a good example with that. But again, like one of the reason I laughed when you said that, the Apple model, because there are all these places in California especially that are like fix-it places. If you crack your screen, you could take it there. That was like a really good business until Apple recently released their latest round of phones, which are glass sandwich style, and the only people in the world that can replace them are Apple, and it costs $500 for a crack on the back of your phone. Because of how they designed it. So the question is, did they design it because that's just where it's going, or did they intentionally design it so you couldn't repair it externally? So they were essentially pushing out those guys that were had built a business around them. I don't know. Like I would hate to see that kind of thing happen, but if there could be hey, we still control the experience, we still control the software, which is really the main thing, and we let other people repair them and deal with that, I think that would be a win.
Yeah. So why don't they just...
Is it time?
I think it's time. Joe, do you want to share the why don't we just?
I didn't have access to it, so
here I'll pop it up.
I'll let you do it.
Let's see.
Let's give Joe something to do.
Let's give Joe something to do. Joe, go ahead. Can you read that?
So Vintage at Daily Carrots.
Deadly Carrots.
Oh, Deadly Carrots. I need my glasses. I can't see so far. Says, why don't they just make Tesla car batteries removable? So when you get to a charging station, you swap your battery for a full one and leave that one to charge for the next person. If implemented correctly, it could even be faster than filling up on petrol.
Well, technically phaser than filling up on petrol.
Phaser, yeah. Well, we don't want phasers involved because that would blow stuff up.
So why don't they just do that?
This is a good question though, because they demonstrated this like several years ago, and then we never heard anything else about it. And I'll be honest, I've had many people when talking about my car that are like, I'm not going to be interested until I can do this.
I like how they're advertising cigarettes on the gas station there. That's pretty cool.
They chose the muckiest gas station they could find.
Yeah.
Oh wait, here. So this was an actual demonstration Tesla did. When was this? 3 years ago? I guess. Here we go. So
2012? No, it was older than that.
A Tesla pulls up over some rails at a I don't know where, like a predetermined place.
Looks like an oil change station kind of, where there's like a bay underneath the car.
Yeah. Yep. A robot like comes up, like 100 little like Allen wrenches or whatever, like torque drivers, unbolt the entire battery from the vehicle, from the chassis of the vehicle, pulls out the old battery, the drained battery, the depleted battery. Then a new one comes in, and la-di-da. Why don't they just do that?
Yeah, they should. And they actually had a patent on it, and it just never happened. I don't know if we ever got an official answer. Are you guys aware? Have you heard any reasoning about that?
So my confusion on this was always, are all the batteries completely interchangeable? Do you wind up with some other battery in your car for the rest of the time you have your car? Or do you not even own the battery anymore? Do they own the batteries?
Ding, ding, ding. That's exactly where my head went. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know that ever got cleared up. I mean, and I'd also heard somebody say, well, maybe if you're on a trip, you would have to like stop and get your battery back on the way back, and they've charged it for you. And I'm like, what? So you have to like follow this same route and track your battery?
No.
I mean, that doesn't. I think there's some logistics involved in that department that never got cleared up.
I think it's the idea that you're basically leasing the battery, you know, like so by the way, it did it in 1 minute and 33 seconds. From pulling up to pulling away, fully charged. That is nuts. I mean, that is highly advantageous. But you know, yeah. So going back to the leasing aspect, like I don't think like, because they actually do this in like on scooters, especially in Asia right now. It's a really big thing where you go kind of like a propane tank. Like you don't really own. I mean, you kind of own the propane tank or whatever. You just swap it out. Like, who cares which tank? You're buying the propane. You're not trying to buy a tank. Who cares about that? Right. And they have these batteries that you can buy 2 of them. You go up to this cool charging station. This is something we probably need to talk about on the podcast because it is awesome. Have you seen this yet?
No. What are you talking about?
You open up the like seat of these scooters. You pull out 2 battery packs. You walk up to a charging station. You pop it in. You know, you swipe your card. You pull 2 new ones out, and you're fully charged, ready to go. You can go another 50 kilometers or something. Wow. Super cool. And
this is in Japan, you were saying?
It all over Asia. Like, I know they're really big in Thailand right now. I think China is getting pretty big with this type of system. There's a particular company that I need to probably find that is like just killing it with this. But yeah, so you don't care about like who owns the battery. I don't think. It's just like, you probably have a deposit down on the battery, so you're not going and stealing the batteries or whatever.
Like, you would have to have some sort of agreement, right? Because that really changes the thing in terms of the warranty on the battery, who actually owns it, who holds that liability. It could be one of those things where like, oh well, once you get the new battery, you now own that one. But we, guarantee some level of efficiency, like we guarantee we gave it to you in a good thing. We did an inspection, blah, 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 something around those parameters. I do love this idea. I think it would be fantastic. It would essentially solve, the biggest challenge I think we have in EV adoption, which is the convenience factor. So I'm all for it. And I know they got a patent on it. I don't know why it's not, but yeah, maybe it's just figuring all that out. What if you don't have a battery pack and you get there and, oh no, I don't know, like
how did you get there?
You're just stuck there. No. What if you get there and they don't have a new one? You're like, Well,
I think they probably have superchargers, and I'm sure they'd have some kind of inventory. But yeah, they'd have to have inventory on different batteries so that you get the same battery as your car. I'm guessing it'd be like they own the batteries. They're you pay $30, you pay the premium for the instant service or whatever. Okay. And then, that covers their cost of maintaining them and the electrical charge and all that stuff. But I think the big thing is, I think twofold for me. I think it's mechanical. It's the idea that, first off, like you're now swapping out something that's going to be covered in salt and water and wet and damp and putting it up and down and connecting and disconnecting it. Talk about rust on those connectors, when you're talking about hundreds of volts of electricity. road debris and stuff like that, taking that battery in and out literally hundreds of times throughout the car's life probably just isn't a very good idea. The other aspect is, I think they're just, let's focus on making the charging faster. Let's get that technology going and let's focus on that so that the wait times are comparable, because they're getting down to the point where on most road trips, like I said the other day, I was waiting 15, 20 minutes at most stops. That's getting close. If that can get down to 10 minutes, I'm not going to complain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think the problem I understand with charging getting faster is heat. Because essentially, if you wanted, no cable exists that could put a 1 megawatt charge into a car that wouldn't just completely dissolve and melt away and just completely catch fire or whatever. It just they're just done. There's no possible way right now. So I think how fast that goes and how we develop that is going to be interesting. But there might be a very kind of practical limit to how fast you could charge. Right. This doesn't have that problem. Like you pointed out, there are other problems associated with it, but I don't know. Those all seem a little bit easier. First, just everyone move to California, and you don't have to worry about this, except for San Francisco. But that's a different story.
I don't think you want that.
Well, that's basically what happens, anyways. Everyone's just always coming here and moving here and trying to become famous, and doesn't work.
Well, could you see a possibility where there's basically not two purchases, but you buy the car. Maybe the car is way cheaper because you're not actually paying for the battery. You're just paying for the car. Mm-hmm. And then, because the battery is a big chunk of the cost of the car.
It's 60% or more, yeah.
Yeah. So maybe half the price of a normal, car, but you lease the battery.
Right.
And so you pay a subscription kind of thing to have that hot swappable battery. And so basically all you own is the car itself, and maybe you have the option later if you want to just get the battery permanently installed, you could do that, but there's an option to just buy the car, lease the battery, and have it swap out like that. But of course, also with this, we're talking about infrastructure. You'd have to have those things set up all over the place, and that's vastly more difficult than a charging station.
Do you think it is? That was going to be my question.
Well, you got to dig a hole in the ground. You got to have all the mechanical stuff under there. It's got to be just perfect because, you strip one bolt and you're screwed.
Yeah,
you strip one bolt and you're screwed.
Yay.
You got one going.
It would have to be, yeah, I think a lot of those things, probably the way that it's designed right now wouldn't, you would have to change how the battery is mounted, I think, on cars. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If
exactly.
they're the current technology, it's not going to be easy enough I don't think. But if you designed it for that, I think you could overcome that.
Some kind of cool quick release thing or something. Like a locking quick release.
And something with magnetic force, something that isn't just anybody can pop it off,
Right.
Definitely. The other thing while we're talking about this though, Ben, I saw you had I think it was Twitter or Instagram or something. You saw a new, looked like a mobile charging thing almost for Tesla. I don't think we were planning to talk about this, but do you have any speculation on what that is? Because it's pretty cool if they could just mass produce those. It looked like it had 4 chargers that take up one charging spot, and it has its own inverter and all that stuff, right? The transformer right there. If they could just come and ship those, they could just drop those things willy-nilly everywhere.
The Volkswagen thing? Oh,
no, but it reminded. Are you guys seeing it?
I'm seeing it.
Yeah. Oh dang. I was trying to go bigger. How do you go bigger here? There. So I was at a supercharger, a regular super. So these are the urban superchargers. Have you seen these before? Are you aware of these? Right. Yeah. So this is a type.
They're a little bit slower, I found out.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, but they have a dedicated line, so somebody can park next to you and it won't matter.
Okay.
Which is nice. So, anyways, so. These are the urban superchargers, but this is at the Cabazon supercharger, kind of out near Indio, Coachella type area. And there are 15 or 16 regular full-size superchargers right next to this. And they literally, you can see in the back, there's just they just ran a cable over to the other main line. And then so every one of these chargers has to have a cabinet with the batteries and the heat thing and all that kind of stuff. It's like a big transformer or something. Mm-hmm. And so this was literally just sitting in a parking space. And so it blew me away. I've seen these chargers before, but never literally just popped down on a pallet
Right.
you know?
And there's 2 of them.
Yeah, there's 3. Yeah.
Oh, there's 3. Yeah.
There's 3
4.
chargers here.
Is there
No,
not?
no, there's not one on the other side.
Okay.
Again, I don't know. It's weird. But it took me because I was like, what is this thing? Yeah. If they could do this, you're right. I mean, you literally could just like, throw 50 superchargers out. Like you could make them in advance at the Gigafactory or whatever, and then just literally ship them in and, pop them down, plug them in, whatever you got to do. But probably the electrical system that they plug into is not something you typically have, I would imagine.
Oh, right. You got to have that infrastructure.
Yeah. It's not like you just plug this into a wall and it's good. It's like there has to be a lot more stuff going on.
Are we sure this isn't version 3?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, yeah, because it's identical to a supercharger, urban supercharger now.
Urban supercharger. And but I mean,
so for V3, the reason I say that is because this cable you're seeing here would not support the new speeds that they're claiming.
Yeah.
Right.
That's true.
And unlike a lot of things where Tesla, instead of going to a different company that makes them and just does, like Tesla makes their own seats, for example. It's like a weird thing. Most car companies don't do that. But like these cables are standard. Like you can go buy them from suppliers, and this cable doesn't support that. I talked to a guy that's like in that space about it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't think this is V3. But this is a really cool pop it down in a parking space and you got 3 superchargers. That's incredible.
Pretty smart. You can't do that with gasoline. Like you can't quickly within 2 hours expand your gasoline network. Like at a gas station. Like, oh, we need 3 more stalls. Like that's a big deal. This
environmental impact report. Blah blah.
And
blah,
like
all that stuff.
digging a thing for the tank and all that stuff. Like it's not a easy thing. That's pretty cool that they can pre-manufacture, pop it out with a truck. I mean, they could double our infrastructure like crazy fast if they just started doing that everywhere.
Well, and they fit so much in such smaller spaces than the regular ones, right? And I think so if you have a regular size supercharger with all the infrastructure for it already, and you could pop these down, you could triple the amount of stalls there, seemingly quickly.
Relatively easy. Yeah. Pretty cool.
So have you heard of anybody that's taken basically that idea and put them on the back of a truck? They could just like go around and give somebody a charge if they are running low on the highway somewhere.
Well,
is there anybody doing that? Like, why couldn't you have a big power pack on the back of like just a U-Haul truck?
Yeah, like a AAA service.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of that,
well, no, I can't imagine somebody hasn't done that. I just haven't heard anything.
Right. So I get that question a lot because from time to time I drive my Tesla until it dies, like I just did earlier this week. And
like
this
they say not to do.
Like they say not to. So if you're watching on YouTube or if you're listening on the podcast, I'm showing a video I just posted this morning of where I drove my Model 3 until it actually died. Not until I just hit 0, but until it would not go. And to see how many miles I could get. And we did it, more smartly this time because we ended inside of a parking lot with a supercharger so we could just push it there. Last time we had to get towed, and that sucked. I had to explain to the guy, hey, I ran out of battery. Weird. Anyways, but the question I get a lot on these kind of videos is, hey, can AAA come recharge you? And there was a photo years ago of a truck with this kind of a thing. But I've called AAA and asked them in advance of doing this, hey, do you have this? And they are completely clueless about it. They're like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like give you like a jump? Like you need a jump? I'm like, no. They're like a giant battery on a truck that I can charge my car from. They're like, nope, no idea what you're talking about.
That's a service just waiting to happen.
I mean, it seems cool, but for anyone, if anyone has actually seen this and experienced it, please leave a comment and let me know, because people yell at me all the time, just go do that. I'm like, I tried. It doesn't like they don't know what I'm talking about. So yeah, it's curious. I think that would be an interesting service. I don't know how popular it would really be though. It'd be cool if just like instead of an emergency service, like, hey, I'm going to be at this mall because for this event, and I don't, there's not a charger there. Can you just come charge my car? There is a company doing that with gas
it could be a
now.
AAA kind of thing.
Yeah.
Dang. But then you get into a little bit of a security issue where, I guess maybe you could do it from your phone. Like, they'd have to call you when they get there, and you'd have to, like, unlock the charging port. But, like, otherwise, if we just start getting things out there all the time that can unlock people's charging ports, you're looking at potentially, I don't know, vandalism or something.
So this gets into something that I kind of want to get your guys' thoughts on. It's not a topic we had already planned out, but it's something that I've been talking with a lot of people about recently. So one of the fun things about Teslas are just how advanced they are from a technical standpoint, obviously. And so some ideas about how to use these vehicles in beyond just a vehicle. One idea was to use it as sort of a secure Amazon delivery location. So packages get stolen all the time, all over the country from people's doorsteps. What if you had some connection with Amazon or something with your phone that when they get to your house, your Tesla is parked out there and the frunk pops open and they put the package in there and then they close the frunk? So now it's like secure. It's you have access to it. You have control. They could only do it for that limited amount of time. That kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. And then the other.
Someone kind of did that, didn't they? I saw a YouTube video where someone was like, they had a note on their door, and it was like, "I'm not home right now, but I can unlock my car for you remotely to a FedEx employee," and they like opened the trunk for him.
That's cool.
The FedEx employee dropped off the package. I mean, the only problem there is, like, not everyone stores their cars outside either, I mean,
sure,
it's kind of a limited use situation, but it is a cool idea, like a temporary key when they're...
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially, we didn't even have planned to talk about this, but that'd especially be safe if what's it called? Sentinel mode? Sentient mode? Probably not sentient. Sentry mode, thank you. Did you guys see this?
Is this just the theft detect thing?
Yeah.
I thought it was also for like door dings and stuff.
The 360 cameras, right?
Yeah. For theft.
Okay.
Bing bong, like no more. I mean, in theory, I'll try to pull this up.
The irony of that is, every region is different, but out here, if the damage or the items are less than a certain dollar amount, the police won't even file a report for you. So it has to be like over $1,000.
I just want to start catching people. I just want to start catching baddies that are trying to break into cars. Because look, someone found this monster dent this morning right in front of the rear-facing camera. Really wish there was a 360 dash cam feature while parked. And he did say Tesla Sentry Mode coming soon for all cars with enhanced autopilot, and basically said it'll be with all cars with AP2 plus hardware.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to have the AP2. The funny thing about that, I'm very curious. This is a good why don't they just, because as someone that has worked in tech for a long time, it's one of those things that I can guarantee you that is so much harder than it sounds. So much harder. Like, all of these cameras running 24/7 is going to take up some battery, right? So you're going to see increased phantom drain. And then storing all of that footage is not an easy... I mean, you guys, how hard it is to store video footage for YouTube. Yeah. Imagine you have 8 cameras running 24 hours a day. They are going to overwrite, but still, the USB stick you're going to have to put in there is going to be like, 500 gigs or more. You don't think so?
I disagree, because...
Unless it's like the past 10 minutes only or something?
First off, it'll probably only be 6 cameras. They'll probably do like the wide angle on the front, the 4 on the sides of the vehicle altogether, and the 1 on the back. So 6 cameras. Okay. They won't be like higher than 720 resolution each. Like, there's no way. They'd probably just be like 480. Mm-hmm. You're talking about 6 480 streams at a fairly low. Like, you don't need 30 frames per second. Probably 15 frames a second. And now we're down to like a pretty standard, like almost 1080 total bit rate. Most likely, and it's probably not. I mean, like
24 hours a day though.
You only need it like. It could make a recording, like, it can be constantly recording as a buffer, right? Just like the dash cam feature is now. The dash cam feature is not actually technically recording. It has a backlog though, and if you hit that thing, then boop, it triggers and it takes that whole snapshot or whatever. Right. Same thing with this. It's like if it detects a bump or someone touching the car or whatever, then it can take that snapshot for X amount of time. Mm-hmm. and only keep that in a separate folder. Otherwise, it's a rolling buffer, basically.
Right.
So you don't need like a terabyte of hard drive space. And even so, terabyte of hard drive space is, you can get that on a thumb drive these days. No big deal. Go pop that thing in. No excuse.
But I'm okay. I'm with you. If you downscale everything super low, I wonder, the other thing you said there that I wonder about is how it would detect some of these things.
It has gyros.
Getting bumped, it doesn't have the...
Yeah, like there are certain sensors, right? Like the alarm. Like, I don't know if you saw that dude Parker from Vehicle Virgins had a really good video on the thefts that have been happening, mostly or popular in the San Francisco area. Have you seen this, where people are taking that rear quarter
Was he
panel?
talking about the tiny... Yeah, I did see that.
What are they doing with that? I saw break-ins, but...
Right, so it's a great video. We'll put a link to it. And what they are doing is they're popping that out. That does not signal the alarm. So you break that window, and then you open the back seat, and then you look from the side window into the trunk to see if there's anything in there of value. And if so, you break out the bigger window right there. Then you crawl in now that the trunk is open, and you grab stuff, and then you get out. Because the only thing that triggers the alarm is the doors or the trunk opening. So you can essentially check it out real quickly and easily to see if anything's in there. If something's in there, hop in, break the window, and then hop in out of the window, and the alarm will never go off. And you've just been robbed, right? And there were no cameras, no sensors. So that's kind of the thing I wonder about. Like, how will it know? So there's two sides. It'll either have a small buffer, like you're saying. It's not the size of the buffer that matters. It's how you use it. But it'll either have a small buffer, or it will have enhanced sensors, right? Because otherwise the buffer has to be massive, because if you're gone at work for 6 hours and you come back, you need at least that much of footage, right? So there's kind of, I think, two sides to that. The sensors you need to detect something and have a small buffer, or just have a giant buffer and then, and then it doesn't matter the sensor-wise. So...
Well, I mean, the car has accelerometers and gyros all over it. It'd probably be able to detect a pretty sensitive bump, honestly. What do you think, Joe? You're smirking.
I don't know from gyros, but I would want to be able to... I would want to be able to turn it on and off. So, like, if it's sitting in my garage and I don't need it on, I wouldn't want it to be draining the battery.
Yeah. And I personally feel like the battery life wouldn't be a huge concern, to be honest, just because, like, think about like little Nest type cams. There's I don't remember what company it is that has the little ones that are wireless. They'll run for 30 days on a battery pack that's like the size of a postage stamp. Really? 30 days, including Wi-Fi transmitting.
Wow.
Is that Ring?
I don't think it's Ring. They're white. I don't remember what they're...
Oh, Simply Safe?
I don't remember what it is, but it's for people that want to stick it on the outside of their house.
We're just
don't
racking
have
up
to worry.
sponsors right now. We're just bringing them in.
Yeah. But that's
this is brought to you by Dashlane.
But you would be so shocked at how little battery life it actually takes to run a camera, recording, and even apparently transmitting Wi-Fi now. I mean, that's crazy that the camera like that can do. I believe it's 30 days or like 60 days or something. Litro or something. I don't remember.
I'm for it. I'm for it. I just think I'm just it's one of those things. I'll believe it when I see it. I would love just the 360 camera for when you're parallel parking and stuff. My buddies, some of my friends have BMWs and they have those. That's amazing. It's like, dude, this is so easy. And I know people say, oh, it'll park for you. Like, haven't had that happen too often.
The parking thing has only come up for me like a few times in legitimate parking places. Now I've been like next to cars on a road at a stoplight and it pops up and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, I think I can say I've been a little disappointed with the parking thing because it's just never
right.
It's never been useful for me.
Right. I think you have to like learn how to pull up to a parking space in order for it to do it, which is just like whatever. Like it's not that hard to park the car. Like I don't. Yeah.
Yep. Sorry, I'm trying to find these things. It is Arlo Cam.
Arlo Cam.
Yeah, Arlo has this indoor outdoor. I can't find it the time, but yeah, it's totally wireless, which is just nuts to me, guys. But yeah, Sorry, I tried. Someone will probably know right away.
So,
It's
so we'll
6
see.
minutes, actually.
It'll be one of those things. All the stuff is just so fun because these cars are just so incredible. And I think we're just going to continue to see. I'm still waiting on the App Store.
Yeah.
I think that would be massive. I was actually just thinking about this the other day. Why don't they just open up the App Store? And a question a lot of times people ask is, well, like, what apps could you even put in there, right? Same question we asked before phones had apps on them. But the one I thought of the other day would be really good is a Starbucks app. So I don't go to Starbucks all the time, but, you know, it would be nice for when I'm driving to a Starbucks for me in my car just to click a button and have it order what I want via their mobile app. And then I get there, or how about this? I pull up, somebody brings it to me, or whatever, you know, that kind of a thing. Because those little things, like, you know, if you're trying to do that on your phone while you're driving, even if you're on your autopilot, it's like just a really bad idea. So, yeah, like there's so many ways that if you had an open API and let these vehicles kind of really spread their wings, so to speak, this could bring in billions of dollars for Tesla. And they would have to they'd have to set up, you know, support infrastructure for the APIs, but marginal, like very small investment in order to do that.
Well, immediately music. I
Right.
mean, Spotify, Pandora, to automatically have those on there, and there's what's a Stitcher.
Yeah.
You know, there's a ton of those. But I've been saying this for years, and I will continue saying it. As somebody with an advertising background, when autonomous cars become a thing, advertising is going to change completely, because for the first time, an advertiser could make an ad that will literally drive the customer to their door.
Click here to go there now. And it literally takes you there. I mean, Waze.
It will literally take you there.
Do you guys use Waze at all? Because Waze does that.
A little bit.
So while you're driving, you know, if you're navigating somewhere, it'll say, like Starbucks is the one that you see a lot, where it'll pop up and be like, hey, need a coffee? Getting tired? Click here to change your navigation route that you're currently on to.
That's kind of weird to me.
To a Starbucks that is still on the way to your thing.
Right.
Amazing. I mean, it's like, you know, that to me is like a very well, like, not
implemented.
super intrusive. Yeah, because it's like, oh, you're actually, you know, I mean, if the answer is no, fine. But if the answer is yes,
Right.
how awesome was that you did that? I think,
Right.
yeah, there's so many opportunities there once the platform gets opened up. Because right now it's so
Right.
closed.
Hey, by the way, I found it. Guess how? I was way wrong. Guess how long the wireless battery lasts for, like, Ring's
3 days.
redesigned thing? Joe, your guess?
4 hours. No.
$1.
6 months to a year.
What?
6 months to a year. I don't think running 6 cameras on a battery pack that's a million times bigger is going to contribute too much to phantom drain. Boom! Why don't they just?
And apparently marijuana is now legal in Iowa because Tim is on something.
Come on, you know me.
Oh, man. No, that's amazing.
That's crazy, though, isn't that?
Yeah.
I think that's nuts. I don't know. I just think that's, like, to me, that's proof in the pudding that I think there is actually some you know,
A
weight
chance.
to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. That it's not going to be.
Apparently it's coming, so we'll see.
Yeah, I'm excited. Well, speaking of things that are coming, should we get on to the kind of the last topic here?
Let's
I think
do it.
of the day. Is this the last one? I always try to close out too early, so
No,
who
we're
knows?
good. I think we're good.
All right, well, it's a big one, literally, because we got the most details ever. This is what I've been waiting for, because I've been waiting to do a video about why, you know, the Starship is going to be made out of stainless steel versus carbon fiber or carbon composite. And this is the most details we've ever gotten, and it's from an interview that happened like last year. Did you guys realize this?
Well, last year wasn't that long ago, but
Well, still, I mean, but in the world of SpaceX, like, last year is crazy. It says they sat down
This
with
was
him.
before the thing fell over and everything fell apart.
What now? But yeah, it's like they sat down with him like a long time ago. I don't know. But anyway, Popular Mechanics, bless their soul, they finally got a one-on-one with Elon last year sometime. And I couldn't help but notice this was shortly after they had an article that praised Elon. Like, I don't know if you saw that article. It's like, why Elon's, you know, why it's important to defend Elon in this important time or something. And like a few weeks later, they get this one-on-one with him. But this was the most details we've gotten about why stainless steel actually does indeed make sense, and it includes some absolutely nuts, like nutty things. So first off, this rocket will actually sweat profusely. It'll actually have pores, and it will sweat.
Okay.
Like, think about that. That's crazy, right? So what it's gonna do, and I'm literally, I just finished like my 8-page script last night. And I've been working on trying to learn. I don't know anything about like chemistry. I'm not a metallurgist. I don't even know how to say that. I'm not a physicist. Like I was diving into this one really blind, and I have read more papers about stuff that I still don't understand. Like the kPa brittle strength of metal at its fatigue rate of 32%, like stuff that I'm just like, oh my, no. But basically, here's the story. This thing now is actually going to be made out of 2 different types of stainless steel. 301 is going to be the primary tank, which is it's a well-known stainless steel. Like they might have their own slight tweak on it, their own special alloy, but it's pretty high nickel alloy, which means it's really strong, especially under cryogenic temperatures, and that's kind of the key. Under cryogenic temperatures, when it's filled up with liquid oxygen and liquid methane, which is also about as cold as liquid oxygen or darn close, the vehicle is actually 50% stronger than when it's not fueled up. So that's interesting, because normally
is counterintuitive, but
that's one of those like counterintuitive things. The other thing then is the heat shield part, the part that's going to be facing re-entry heating, is going to be made out of 310S stainless steel, which can handle a higher peak temperature. So although it's not as strong under cryogenic temperatures, it can handle a pretty high peak heating. So what they're going to do is they're going to basically do a sandwich layer there. There's going to be 310 on the very outside, like on almost like, think of it as a breastplate, because this thing's going to be falling like a skydiver through the atmosphere. It's going to have this chest plate, this breastplate that's 310 stainless steel that has tiny, tiny little holes in it. We're talking about like, you wouldn't even be able to see them, holes. And this might sound insane, but this is actually normal. Like airplane wings oftentimes have tiny pores in the leading edge of the wing to let like de-icing solution out so that they don't develop ice on the leading edge of the wing. So planes have been doing this forever, for half a century. So that's nothing crazy. And then there's just cooling channels and like literally just ribbing through channels between these sandwiches that'll have liquid methane shooting through these pores then. So they'll use some of the liquid methane in the rocket, they'll send it through these cooling channels, and it will actually bleed out liquid methane as it re-enters, which will be spectacular. Like, wow. Think about it, because now you're putting fuel into your plasma leading edge, but some people are speculating that first off, it will still have a cooling effect because you're wicking away heat, but also that the reaction time is slower than it'll evaporate away quicker. It's a fairly low oxygen environment, and it'll evaporate, and then it might like catch fire as a state change in the wake. I don't get too much into that in this video because it's kind of like I'm clueless about. But basically, we're probably going to see this big sweaty thing that's radiating heat away because it's shiny, so it's like blinding bright with a giant trail of fire, like huge, magnificent flaming comet flying back in from space. And it just turns out this whole thing is actually looking like it's going to be, the big thing is it's not like nothing's getting wasted away. They're not having to, we had this heat shield that got charred and now we have to replace it. No, the whole thing, like you land it, you fuel it back up, and the fuel's the coolant, the skin might need to spray it down with WD-40, literally WD-40. I don't know if Mr. San Diego knows this, but WD-40 was made in San Diego for the original Atlas rockets that were launched and developed in San Diego, that were made out of stainless steel.
So they just have like a 30-meter tall can with a big straw sticking out of it, just like shh.
That's I'm animating that in my video where it's gonna be showered down with giant cans of WD-40. Yeah.
Yes. Or like drones carrying,
everybody's slipping everywhere.
Yeah, like 500 drones carrying regular size cans, just going up and down.
Yes. Oh, that'd be awesome. But yeah, it's all actually coming together. And the important thing to note here, and I've seen a lot of talk about this on Reddit and like NASAspaceflight.com and stuff like that, is that people are sitting here going like, okay, come on, guys. Like, you just made this huge change. Now you're starting over. You're probably like 5 years out. And the reality of the matter is, most likely, they've been looking at this for a long, long, long time. You know, they aren't letting us in real time, 1-to-1. Like, Elon's not gonna be like, hey, just today we decided to switch to stainless steel. Oh, he's probably been working on it. You know, he made it sound like he personally has been thinking about it and wanting to go this way for a long time, and he had to convince his team. But also the other key, sorry, this is the long rant, is there's a company that I found an article on that released just this last year in 2018. They made a big public statement about how they can now cryoform stainless steel, which has been elusive. Like, you've never been able to cold form stainless steel, which means you literally freeze it down to cryo temperature, so like minus 150 degrees Celsius. You start bending and forming the metal, and when you do that, it is really strong. It's a really strong way as opposed to heating it up to bending it. You cool it down and bend it, and it's really hard to do. It's a hard manufacturing technique, but apparently they found a solution to make it super easy, reliably, and make this metal even stronger and easy to manufacture. And that's kind of the key. Easy to manufacture, stronger, cheap too. This stuff is 60 times cheaper than carbon composites.
$3 a kilogram or something like that.
Yes, like $3 a kilogram as opposed to almost 200.
Yeah.
So we're just looking at this, like, all the boxes are getting ticked, and you're just like, this does make sense, and it's crazy. Yeah.
So I can't remember the name of the effect, but if your skillet is hot enough and you put water on it, that the water actually, it doesn't boil at first. It kind of like hovers above the surface. I can't remember the name of the effect, but anyway, it actually creates a little cushion of superheated air or whatever. Is this sort of? I mean, this is sounding sort of like the same idea with the methane leaking out through the pores. It's almost like it becomes superheated and creates like a buffer between.
And slows
like a
it
little
down.
Microscopic gap between the heat and the ship itself.
It might be. That might be exactly right. I am excited to see more details on that exactly and the effect that'll have. Yeah, if it is like basically like a slowly bleeding off like buffer, or if it's like this spraying like, you know, I'm excited to learn more about that because it's crazy. And the funny thing is, one of the nuttiest rocket designs ever, called the Roton, which was a helicopter to space. Yes, think about that. It's the silliest rocket design I've ever heard of. Also wanted to use a water-based heat shield that would wick out water in the same type of thing. And it's funny that here this design was kind of laughed at, and now, you know, Howard Hughes 2.0 comes around and says, we're doing it, you know, and if the math closes, if it works out, if it's a good solution, you know, it's crazy, but it's probably crazy enough to work.
So Elon takes a lot of flack, and rightfully so, for being on Elon time and kind of misjudging deadlines and stuff like that. But he does, I feel, have a history of having some idea that everybody's like, what? That's insane. And then he makes it happen. And then when you really break it down, like you're doing right now, oh, that actually really makes sense. It's just nobody thought about it in that way. Nobody had that click in their mind, you know?
There's a lot of these things where when things change in size, they take on different roles. Like, I heard a really interesting talk, I think it was on one of the Star Talk ones, when it's like Stump, Neil deGrasse Tyson or something. And there was a guy there that studied, I don't know, like nanotechnology or something like this, like stupidly small, like crazy small stuff. And there's a material on Earth that will, when it gets down to this nanoscale, it acts as basically like an antibiotic, an antiseptic. It just like cleans everything, makes everything pure and beautiful and amazing. And that element is water. And it was just something about when you break it down to the smallest thing, like the idea was that you could literally just spray it in a city and it would just clean everything. Like you'd breathe it in, it would make you healthier, and you're just like, what? It's just water. But something about when it changes in certain kind of conditions, it has this wildly different effect than it does when it's bigger, you know, or at a different scale. So I thought that was interesting.
Are you sure you're not talking like a breatharian or whatever? You guys heard those?
Oh, yeah.
Like, sounds kind of like a little bit of a hoity-toity idea of like, all you need in life is water. It'll solve everything. I live off water and that's it.
Water and crystals, man, and energy. It's all energy, man.
Oh, man.
Yeah, but this is one of those things. It's like, You're right. I know my comment section when I post this is like, I'll have a lot of people saying, it's too bad they're giving up on carbon composites. Rocket Lab's making it work. All these, X, Y, and Z. They'll have examples. This is starting to sound like the X-33 Venture Star program, where they wanted to use carbon fiber tanks. They ditched it for aluminum, and that made it too heavy, and the program failed. I know I'm going to have so many comments of like people saying, well, of course, this won't work, But at the end of the day, like, the proof is in the pudding. Like, all that matters is getting it done. Getting it done, they could spend 7 more years chasing an advanced carbon composite material that works in these situations. Or they could get this done today 60 times cheaper, fully reusable, actually lighter in this case because it doesn't need a heat shield now, a separate heat shield. Kind of like the space shuttle. Like 10% of the space shuttle's weight, or maybe even more, was the heat shielding.
Yeah.
Because they used an aluminum frame. And a lot of people say, well, if they just use titanium, titanium is a little bit heavier, but they could have used less heat shield, et cetera, et cetera. It all can close, and all that matters at the end of even if the payload capacity is halved, like say they're currently, the last we knew, they were slating 100 tons to low Earth orbit. That's insane. There's no market demand for 100-ton anything to low Earth orbit. So say it gets halved. Say it gets cut down to a tenth, and it only can send up things that a Falcon 9 can carry right now. But it's fully reusable, and you fuel it back up, you take it off tomorrow.
And it's 60% cheaper.
And it's game over. Like, you are now talking about an airliner-like reliable vehicle that you can quickly use over and over and over again. And who cares? Even if it can only put up, something the size of like a Rocket Lab's capability, 250 kilograms. If it's completely reusable and you're only paying for fuel, game over. So if they have room to take a payload penalty, but I don't even think they're going to. I think this is actually lighter, smarter, and crazy. And by the way, I'm going to encompass this all in saying this isn't novel. The Atlas rocket used it. They still use it today. ULA on their Atlas V rocket, the upper stage is stainless steel. The Centaur upper stage is stainless steel balloon tanks. Like, it's not anything crazy. That's on rockets right now. So it's not like people are like, this will never work. It's working right now, like they're using it in a little different way. They're having it be self-supporting so that when it's unpressurized, it won't fold over like the old Atlas rockets and like Centaur upper stage. It's being used in a different way. That's a little bit novel. He's kind of taking all these different ideas and blending them into one new solution, which I think is what he does best.
Mm-hmm. I can't wait to see it. How are we going to get shots of it if it's so blindingly like that's the one thing I feel bad, it's like and you as a photographer, Tim, I'm sure are like,
well, you normally don't really it's really hard to get video of a re-entering spacecraft because it's flying across your your perspective, your sky in like a minute, going as 10 times faster than a bullet still. You'll see a comet streak across the sky, but good luck actually tracking, if you've seen videos of space, like the space shuttle re-entering, or unfortunately probably the most famous one is Columbia on its final re-entry when it broke apart. There's, amateur footage of it, people tracking it. Like, you don't normally photograph or see the re-entry of a orbital vehicle.
But what about a camera on the vehicle itself?
Oh, that'll just be...
melted.
Yeah, you'll just see, out the windows, you'll just see red plasma, or orangish glow plasma, just like you did with Space Shuttle Reentry again.
And this is the same one that people will fly on?
Eventually, yeah. Not right now, like not anytime soon. The Dragon capsule's prepping to send people up. We're looking at February 23rd is the current date for the test.
No.
Uncrewed test launch.
Starship. This is the moon, Dear Moon, right?
Yep. That's the plan.
So this will have how many passengers? Do we know? Or speculation.
Anywhere from 12 to 100, it sounds like.
And when you're coming back, you're gonna look out the window and just see like endless fire.
Yes, just like you do with Soyuz. When you look at any footage of re-entry, Soyuz, Apollo, any of them that have windows, the space shuttle's a great one. Here I'll pull this up. You guys keep talking, keep asking questions. I'll pull up.
What do you think, Joe?
Re-entry.
How do you feel about coming back in? Like, hey, look, oh wait.
So it's going to be interesting. I have trouble believing they're going to fully build out a Starship to test re-entry. I feel like they're probably going to like adopt or adapt a second stage or something first, and just kind of like test out this ablative or whatever the thing that they've got going on here with the stainless steel. Like maybe there's going to build a modified version just to make it just to test the re-entry thing. It's just it's such a new thing that nobody's ever done before. You know?
Right. I do see why he was talking about potentially using the upper stage of a Falcon 9 to start testing some of these things like the bleeding skin and stainless steels and all that stuff. I now I'm starting to go, yeah, he was probably like that's exactly what he was talking about, you know.
What are we looking at here?
So
Tim?
what we're looking at here is the space shuttle re-entering, and it's just a glowing fire on the outside.
Yep. You're seeing just super, super hot plasma, like the temperature of the sun, basically, right in front of people. Like, like 2 meters in front of people.
Yeah.
If they were reaching out, you'd be incinerated instantly.
So is the window hot? Ow!
I really do wonder if they said, like, do not touch the window. I wonder, actually, how much would conduct through the window. And
well, they've got paper up like right against the window.
Yeah,
so
it's true.
They
The
can't
paper
be too hot.
Yeah, that's nuts. Isn't that crazy? Like right there is unbelievable heat. Yeah, it's just
It looks like a
nuts to
pretty
me.
smooth ride, though. Didn't look like it was bouncing around too much.
I mean, there's no like turbulence really. You're just you're going fast. You're going really fast. You have to turn that kinetic energy into heat and disperse it through heat. But it's not gonna like it's not like,
with, like balls of steel, just like eating yogurt during all that.
That'd be
well,
so
someday
good.
it might be
No big
routine.
deal,
I mean, someday it might just be a walk in the park to hop up on a Starship or a similar craft of this nature, and you go up into space real quick, you pop back down, you light the entire thing on fire, and it's no big deal because it's designed to handle that, you know? Yes, us humans are extremely fragile, but metal and material are a lot more resilient than we are, you know?
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So sort of on these lines, not to change the subject, but you covered the new Shepard going up.
Mm-hmm.
And what was it, 2 days ago?
Yeah, 2 or 3 days ago, 3 days ago maybe, Tuesday maybe, I don't remember.
So are they eyeing this year for finally putting a person in there?
Yes, they are. And they do have, I think, their first operational. So the reason we're not seeing many shots, a lot of people ask, why aren't we seeing video from inside the capsule? Because it's not finished yet. This is still very much a test bed. You know, this is their third vehicle and booster. And it's still kind of a test bed. So it's not pretty. You know, they showed shots. I don't know if you happen to see that, but they have video now of the inside of their New Shepard capsule. And
I've seen some shots of it.
It is gorgeous. Like it is
cool.
So pretty. But the actual
all the seats are like in a circle around with each of them having their own window, and then there's like this like surface, this table or something in the middle.
Do you know what that table is?
No.
That's the SRB. That is the abort motor. You have
Let's just keep that right there.
a massive giant explosive.
You spilled your yogurt on the abort motor again, Joe.
Right.
Come on.
Yeah, but you know that's great though. I mean, it looks good. I'm sure it's super well encapsulated and all that stuff, you know. And I'm gonna try and find that video section here where they show that off because it is very, very, very pretty.
But the one that they launched the other day, that was like the 4th or 5th time that booster had gone up.
Yep, that was, I believe, the 4th launch of this particular booster. Yeah, which is crazy. They've got the stuff down, you know, they really do. And they are still...
Which is kind of why I've been like, why are they waiting? I mean, I know they're being safe, and that makes sense. But I've been kind of like, they keep launching these, and they're all going perfectly. And I'm like, so when are you going to put a person on this? Isn't that the idea?
Right. It's definitely the idea. And it will happen very, very soon. I'm going to show you guys real quick. I'm going to pull this up. Hang on, it'll probably be a lady talking here for a second. Oh, there we go. It was, I believe her name is Ariane, which is, she's an awesome presenter for Blue Origin. She does a great job explaining everything. Yeah, this is gorgeous. And this is the one that they're going to be flying next. Like, I think this actual capsule will be the next one they're going to start flying on top of their new boosters. They actually have a fleet now. They have 2 boosters and 2 capsules. And I believe it maybe not the next flight, but perhaps like very soon.
Why did they zoom in on like the scratched seat? Was that?
No, that's a feather.
Oh,
That's
was it? Oh.
the feather logo. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
It just looked like it was torn. I'm like,
check out this scratch.
Get duct tape across it.
Be sure and show all the flaws. No, but so yeah, that center thing, if
That
you're
is cool
watching this right
looking.
now, that is the abort motor. That is a solid rocket motor in this beautiful casing. It looks great. I'm glad it's there and that they like almost design around it. I think it's actually kind of cool. But yeah, they are aiming to hopefully fly at the end or within this year. They haven't even said the end. They just say like by the end. I think later this year they keep saying that they're going to be flying people for the first time. It'll probably be, their own crew or something like that at first. But I have a lot of faith in this system. I feel like they're taking it super slow, making sure it's super safe. They've done 3 different abort tests. Name another company that's aborted 3 times: a ground abort, max Q abort, and a max apogee abort. I mean, they've tested it all the way. Mm-hmm. I'm really impressed. People are like, can't they stop testing? It's like, hey, they're pushing it to the limits. They are pushing it absolutely, literally every time. Like max Q abort and the booster survived. That's amazing. They did another apogee abort, making sure the capsule at the very end, say right at stage separation, something happens and the booster explodes or something and they need to abort at the very top. That capsule is going to go a lot higher now because all of a sudden you just lit another motor and all of a sudden you're going to shoot up way higher. I think that one reached like, I don't know, 120, 130 kilometers or something, like significantly higher than it normally would. And so you want to make sure the capsule can survive that reentry because that is a situation that potentially could happen in the realm of possibilities. Mm-hmm. They tested that. Like, you don't need to test that, but they did. And I appreciate that. I think it is showing a ton of maturity. It's showing a ton of patience and making sure that they have the safest vehicle for their customers. And when you're talking about human lives, you only get one shot, and I think that's awesome.
And this is also like a recreational thing. So for people to feel safe enough to plunk down the money and do that, they're going to want that kind of track record.
Yes, exactly.
That makes sense. So this year, if things go to plan, we will have SpaceX, Boeing, and New Shepard, or Blue Origin, all putting people into space.
And Virgin Galactic's also eyeing this year,
and
too.
Virgin Galactic, yeah.
Wow.
We went from no people from the U.S. to 4 companies.
Are we going to
Potentially 1
see
year.
Falcon Heavy this year again?
Oh, yeah. Falcon Heavy's basically out at the Cape, being assembled and prepping for, I believe, early March is what they're targeting. So get that plane ticket ready, Ben.
No. So much going on in March. I can't.
Welcome to my world.
Yeah. Well, there's that, and then there's the Tesla Model Y unveiling, rumored. We don't have dates yet, but that. And then there's the Tesla winter driving experience, which they just came out with. And I have reached out and asked to go and said I will pay 100% of my own way. Just let me come. No answer on that. But
so what is that? I don't know what that is.
Was that a referral program thing?
No. Let me see if I can find. They posted a video. Okay, cool. Here, I'll share it with the peeps so you guys can see.
You are the fastest person I've ever seen at finding something and pulling it up
Ding, 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 ding.
online. It's crazy.
Thank you, sir.
Guys, Elon's been on Twitter, by the way, so while you're talking about this, I'm going to make sure he's not talking about anything awesome.
Tim needs an Elon timeout.
Yeah.
Okay, so what you're seeing if you're if you're watching it, you know what you're seeing. If you're listening, what you're seeing are these Teslas running around this ice snow racetrack, essentially, in Finland. And it's called the Kumi. It's called the Frozen Sea in Finland. This is like one of those winter testing proving grounds where all the car manufacturers take their cars and they run them in the winter conditions. And so this is in Kemi, Finland. Probably not pronouncing it right. And there's a snow castle there. And so people that want to enter this, they can do so. I will put a link to this. We don't get no extra credit for us or whatever. And then on there, it has the Model 3 Performance in track mode, which you can then drive, or you'll have a professional driver take you around this course. And so it's like an overnight stay. It's like your time on the track. It's at a snow castle in Finland, which is like really crazy looking. So I totally want to go to this, even though I hate the cold, just because it looks so fun, and I'd love to make a video going there.
That would be cool.
Yeah, so but it's in March. And you're kind of like, all right, Model Y unveiling in March, this in March, and Falcon Heavy in March. I'm just not going to see my family for all of March. I don't think. That's just going to be how it goes. So there you have it.
Yeah, that's Elon's tweeting a lot. He is straight up on Twitter, like always, as we record. That's just the way it happens, right? But basically,
let's
he
see if we
now
can catch
confirmed
something.
that Sentry Mode 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay. We'll see. So we'll have to revisit that, and we'll have either Tim has to do 100 push-ups or Ben has to do 100 push-ups. Whoever wins the bet there.
Yeah. Oh man. We'll see. Yeah, rough beta in 2 to 3 weeks. So, but
So that means not us. That means other people.
Yeah, thoroughly adapters.
Did you guys just get an update yesterday? I got an update on my Model 3. Was it yesterday or the day before?
What's it do?
I got one the other day, but I didn't notice anything.
Yeah, there was no.
New.
Yeah.
Just
No.
bugs and stuff.
Bug fixes or something.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be nice if they. I mean, I don't know. It goes to the experience part. I think that should always, because a consumer sees this, there should always be some release notes, right? I mean, there clearly are in the software side. Like whoever wrote the code says fixing this bug for this. These things, you don't just like go around, oh, let's change that code and not document what you did, right? Like every change has to be documented. So, but changing the software engineer documentation to a consumer-friendly explanation of that is a job in itself. So,
yeah.
Yep. Dang.
Cool.
Well, guys, what are you guys working on for videos?
I just did the driving my Tesla until it died. That was a fun one.
That was good, by the way. You put a lot of oomph into that one.
Appreciate that, sir.
A lot of production value there.
I haven't seen it, you jabroni.
Well, you need to get on it.
I
I posted it
for
early
lunch.
so that the folks on the East Coast times could see it. No, it's good. And it's funny because I went back and forth on the title so many times. Like, okay, super boring title like Tesla Model 3 range test. And I'm like, you know what? I'm bored of that. I don't even want to click on that. and then I was like, all right, well, how about how far can it go? And then I'm like, okay. And then as I was sending it to everybody, I'm like, hey, I did a thing where I drove my car until it died. And that was just how I was describing it over and over again. So that's the title of it now. I drove my Tesla Model 3 until it died. Kind of what happens and all that stuff. And I also did it a year ago, so you can kind of compare and contrast is the thing.
Yeah.
Well, so just real quick, do you think that the difference was mostly because of the wind? Because you mentioned that in the
100%.
in the video.
100%. I mean,
Did you
we
have
were
the big
driving
rims on the last time you did it?
Same exact car. Yep. Lower,
Okay.
same rims, same tires, everything same. Temperature was relatively the same. I think it was maybe 5 or 10 degrees difference.
It's San Diego, so it's never.
Well, to drive it to zero, you have to drive quite a while. So we drive basically out to Palm Springs, and on the way there, the last time we went through Joshua Tree, this time Joshua Tree was closed because of the national parks and everything or whatever. So couldn't go there. But we went on the same road next to it, and yeah, we did not it did not turn out as expected at all. But the wind was heavy. Like 25 to 35 miles an hour sustained. You just feel it just driving, just like, whoa, the car's like pushing all around. So to me, the idea originally was like, yeah, like let's go crush this thing. And then as we were going, we're like, wow, this is a good story just to educate people on like how different it can be, based on conditions. And that goes for any car, really, any gas car. I mean, with winds like that, you're not going to get as good gas mileage. So so that was, I tried to put some more cinematic quality in this one, trying to up the game a little bit there. So some camera tricks even, trying to have fun with that. So
Good.
Timothy, maybe you will enjoy that.
Maybe I'll hate it.
Yeah, you probably will. Probably one of those, this is absolute clickbait. How could you say you drove your Tesla until it died? Because that's what I did.
Oh, Joe, what's your next one?
I still haven't even written it yet. I'm so far behind on it. I keep saying I'm going to get ahead, and it just doesn't happen.
Same.
No, the one for Monday I've got planned is on something called quantized inertia, which is like sort of a controversial theory of momentum, and it's one of the ways to explain why the M drive might work, even though most people don't believe it does work.
Right.
So It's a lot of stuff I don't really understand, so it's going to be more of a comedy video. That's what I do for those who are paying attention. If I really don't understand the topic, I'm just going to make a lot of jokes and distract people from the fact that I don't know what I'm talking about.
Isn't that always like scary when you have a blank canvas and you have to start at page 1? You're just like, oh, where do I even start with this?
Yeah, that's where I've been for a while.
That was me with the stainless steel thing. I've been working on this since November. Before it was like publicly known it was like stainless steel. I've been like trying to study up on stainless steel. I have tabs open that I've been trying to regurgitate for months because it's just like, where do you begin?
Yeah.
Where do you start with that topic? Like this is so out of my wheelhouse, but now I feel good about it. I really think I've got it nailed down. So I'm excited. I'm going to be shooting that one hopefully today. Probably should shave and shoot, the old SNS.
You shave
and shoot.
Shave now, so then next week when you record, you're back to where you need to be.
I mean, worry. Maybe I'll try to put a bigger guard on so I don't totally, quit the club.
Dollar Beard Club. There you go.
There we go.
That's a thing.
Sponsored by
Dollar Beard Club.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Dollar Shave Club.
Well, the Dollar Shave Club came out, and then beards became a thing, and nobody was shaving, so they made Dollar Beard Club.
Did they really?
Dollar Beard Club.
Well, Ben's looking it up, so I'll either look like an idiot or.
Well, there's the Beard Club. Wait, the Bear Club. Wait,
why don't we start a
totally
Dollar Beard
wrong.
Club?
No, this is something else.
That's a different website.
This is
Where you
something
get a
else.
trimmer?
Let's see. There you go. We could have some trimmers. The beard oils.
Yeah.
Thing.
Yeah.
Start it over. Although I guarantee by the time you get Dollar Beard Club rolled out, it'll be just like Dollar Shave Club, where it's like they probably got it out right as beards are coming around. We'll probably get like launch Dollar Beard Club, and everyone's like, yeah, beards are done.
Shaving.
We're shaving now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Clean shave is cool. Dang it. Yep. Well, yeah. Is that it, guys?
That's it.
I think so.
We did it.
Thanks everybody for your recommendations and for your why don't they justs. We've been really enjoying those. Reach out to us on Twitter. You got all three of us. Day Astronaut, at Answers with Joe, not Joe Scott, and at Ben Solons. And come reach out to us. Let us know your favorite why don't they just, and if we like it, we'll feature it in the show, and we'll hopefully have a good. I think those make for fun conversations because they're always you kind of get the little roundabout of the engineering thoughts and all that stuff. So thank you for sharing those, and thanks for sharing our podcast with your friends. We're now growing pretty quickly on the old YouTube. We're way over 10,000 now and continue to grow. So thank you guys so much for sharing and joining us every week. It really means a lot. So
until then,
thanks everybody.
We'll see you in
our
ludicrous
failed outro.